Welcome back, guys. Episode 7 of the Market Matters podcast. And without giving it away, we do have a special guest, but wanted to get into our normal market update to start the podcast. And I'll bring it over to Chris with some market stats for the housing market.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Market Matters podcast. As always, we're coming at you with some stats today. Specifically in the markets that we serve, which are the Sacramento, Placer, and El Dorado County here in lovely Northern California. Right now, we're kind of midway through March. We'll talk about how February was. So for sale last month wrapped up, we had a total of 1690, which is quite low. We're still experiencing a lot of low inventory in the area. Sold 1088. It's actually going up. So we've got an interesting dynamic there. Low inventory, but sales are going up. So the buyers that are ready are going out and they're buying. It's just that the sellers on the block are kind of low, right?
Yeah, it's getting more sunny too. Other than today, it's raining, but yesterday was very nice. And I'll talk a little bit after you get to these stats, but there was a ton of people out because it was a nice day.
Perfect day for an open house, I'm sure. Lined it up perfect because it was like raining before and then...
Yeah, people get stir crazy. They're just like, once they get sun after it's like 2 weeks of rain, they're like, I want to get out.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you're thinking about buying a house, your weekend activity is open houses.
Yes, that's right. It sure is.
So pended, by the way, which means we got into contract, maybe didn't actually sell, but pretty much offer was accepted, halfway to being sold. We had about 1409 in February, which was actually an uptick from January, about 20% up. So we're seeing that seasonality. We're slowly shifting into the spring market, being here March, April, which it's cool that we're seeing seasonality because, you know, the last couple years because of what we call the pandemic market, right? Yeah, there hasn't been such a thing. So it is a good indicator that the market is stabilizing, right? It's going from its ultra high to probably a healthy place it should be.
Yeah. And I feel like the one thing because people keep waiting for like a value crash when it comes to real estate, but the problem is the supply is still low and now buyer demand is picking up, and especially existing homes, not new builds, it's just tight because of all the low interest rates on all these homes. So it's like people want to see this crash, but when you have supply that's still matching demand, there's no point as to why value would be seeing a sharp decrease. It's just we're not seeing because of the current interest rates that a lot of these people have on their mortgages. Why would you want to give up 3%?
Precisely. Yeah, exactly. You know, you've got some people that locked in even lower, right? 2.5 up to 3.
199.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. It's called a trophy rate right there.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it is, again, we're seeing low inventory, but interestingly enough, you know, we're seeing people that are wanting to obviously get in on buying a home. Investors are still trying to find ways to do their thing. So we are seeing an uptick in sales because of this seasonal market. We're going to the spring market, which is when we do have a seasonality type of market, it's usually the most transactions are flying by then.
The springtime surge, and we probably will see more supply come up leading up to that May, because I think we mentioned in the last podcast, typically in the first weekend or second weekend of May is like statistically been the best time in terms of getting it sold for the best price. For simplicity reasons, it's going to be nice and warm. It's a lot easier to move when it's nice. It's a pain in the ass to be able to move when it's raining. It's just the reality.
Exactly.
But I think I could probably talk a little bit about the open house I did yesterday.
Let's do it.
Yeah, it was actually in Sun City. So that was a 55 plus community. So it was a little bit different in terms of priorities that we're usually used to with first time home buyers.
Different demographic for sure. Different things we're looking for.
Different property requirements. A lot of them are actually looking for, typically younger folks would rather bridge that gap to get a little bit higher in terms of pushing the boundaries with their budget. With older folks, they like to downsize because realistically they're working on retirement. They don't want a high liability. So we're seeing that a lot of them were wanting to come in because a lot of their friends were there, a lot of their family and stuff like that. So they're looking to get closer to family and be with their friends. But a lot of cash. Cash, because a lot of them are downsizing, and so a lot of them are selling a home and then they're just transferring from one property to the other, and it's boom, boom.
Right.
So it was a little lackluster for me. But yeah, super nice people. But it was a steady inflow. I would say there's probably like 14 groups steady for 3 hours. So
Very nice.
yeah, so there's definitely demand. It just really, I mean, different demographics have different priorities, and that's just the 55 plus community. But I mean, that just goes to show buyer demand is coming back a lot. But I just want to see that supply go up. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's helping for homeowners and home buyers to be able to maintain that value.
Yeah.
So yeah, and because people are concerned about refinancing because you need a little bit of equity in order to do that unless you have an FHA or VA loan. That's really, I think that's been the common theme, is just keeping people posted on the fact that we're not seeing any sharp declines. We're not seeing any crazy things happen in the market. We're just getting to more of a seasonal market where things are getting more steady, a little bit higher in terms of demand, not crazy, but just people are going back to the basics when it comes to buying real estate. It's not all about rates. It's your family. Want to get closer to family, you need to go higher. You're looking to get yourself into your first home,
right?
Like this man over here just recently did. It's getting back to the basics there, and because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that your payment's going to be enough that you're comfortable with, and legally, I mean, technically, you can't go more than you can technically qualify for, but people are more so. We should be focusing more on that because real estate's the best, especially given the current inflationary situation. So
exactly. And to bounce on that point, it's like, I think before we even aired, we were kind of talking about this, how it is very important with your clients to make sure, to your point, it's like, yes, you're going to have X amount that you technically on paper you need to qualify for to get it.
Right.
But it's like, in your situation, is it wise to just hit all the way to that buffer, right? All the way to that ceiling, just knowing where their comfortability is at, making sure they're aware of what that means from their affordability month to month.
For sure.
Especially if you're going into a property, let's say, maybe you've got things that need to be fixed, or, other costs that people, may not be top of mind when you get into it. Especially if they're in a first time position. So making sure they're advised on all of those things. But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Make sure you're not giving up everything in order to get in that home, because as we know, there's going to be moving costs and potential if you want to do things to the property. And it's always good to have a reserve to make sure that you, in the instance where you're covered for at least 6 months to 12 months is my philosophy.
That's a good one.
But yeah, I think that's about it for our market update. I now want to introduce
who's this guy?
Who's this guy? Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. I kind of know him pretty well. So Jax, say hi.
What's going on? Thanks for having me.
Of course, man.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm glad you were able to come over and join us this morning. So a little bit about Jax. We actually went to college together at Boise State, and we were pledge brothers. So we go a little bit back, and we were there in Boise for quite some time. We got initiated together. We're fraternity brothers and got really, really close within college. As time went by, our paths have slowly moved in other directions. He went to Colorado, back close to family, and then went towards to Maine for another cool. We'll talk a little bit about that, for a new journey, which hint, very cool. We'll talk about that. But and now he just recently came back in our neck of the woods in the Placer County, Sacramento County area, and super blessed to be able to have him close, because he's a brother of mine, literally. So but yeah, I think the biggest thing would just be, I really want to hear, because we've spoken a little bit about it, but tell us a little bit about your journey, because there's been mental journeys, and there's also been little physical movements of journey. So I'm curious, after Boise State, what was your experience?
So I grew up in Boulder, Colorado, and then my father ended up transitioning his life to Boise, Idaho, and he got me in-state tuition at Boise State University. So
nice.
I was just going crazy, partying, and just going off the rails. I just have a very addictive personality. So I'm the type of guy that's all in or all out. So by that, I mean, when it came to having a good time, I think I indulged a little bit too much, if that makes any sense.
So
yeah, flying off the rails when it came to fraternity and college life. And so I went to Boise State, met Sam, fraternity brothers, will never regret a day of my life of being in the fraternity together. That was amazing. It really created a network and a bond with your brothers, and you are going to have a lifelong connection to all those guys. And I still check in with a lot of them and make sure that we're keeping up to date with each other. And I wish nothing but the best to all those guys. But after, a transition to becoming sober with just putting the alcohol down, I kind of had to.
And when did you start sobriety?
So I stopped drinking in 2019.
Oh, nice. You're coming up on 4 years.
Yeah, and dude, there's nothing wrong with drinking alcohol. This isn't like, oh, you shouldn't drink alcohol.
Right,
it's just like I said, I couldn't handle it, and I don't know if I could today since I've kind of became more disciplined, but it's just what I had to do.
As long as it works for you. Like, I know some people that have that addictive personality and just pretty much if they touch it, they're done. It's either you start and it's like 10 beers or nothing, or like such and such hits or nothing. Like, it's like, but some people, it's just like, I can just have a couple of drinks, be fine with it. So it just really depends on what works for you at the end of the day to stay healthy and stay clear.
Absolutely.
That's the big thing. Being clear for us is a big deal.
Totally.
Yeah. So you went from Colorado. I'm curious because I got a little bit of it. We've obviously talked a little bit about Maine, but you moved to Maine for a cool opportunity. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. So I was working in Boulder. I moved back in with my mom after Boise. I moved back home, and I just kind of needed to hit the reset button. And it was super humiliating having to be 22 and move back in with your mom. And
hey, I did after college.
You did. And it's like there's no big deal. It doesn't matter if you're 30 and you have to do it, but when you're undergoing that process, you're like, dude, what are my boys gonna think about me?
I know,
like, you know what I mean? Like, what are people gonna think when I'm telling people I live with my mom? It's just a big dose of humble pie.
Yeah, for sure.
So I moved back in with my mom. I applied at a gym, and I was like, okay. So like I said before, with my 180, I basically put down alcohol and I replaced it with the weight room, because that's how I could channel my anger, anxiety, everything, and it's like, you hear a lot about people that get sober and they replace the addiction with something else. So whether that's a good thing or a bad thing that I did it with the weight room, it worked for me. So I wanted to go into the weight room and the health and fitness industry. So I moved into that realm, was working at Crunch Fitness, living with my mom.
Hey, that's where I go.
Is that where you go? Right on, dude. $10 memberships, baby.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, I pay the
super cheap.
Yeah, I pay the what, 25, which is still nothing. But then I can go to any of the locations. Yeah, exactly. And so that works for me because I've got one near the office or one closer to here. So it's like hit the gym, go to the shower, go to the office, go to work.
Yeah,
it's like that way I can just stay out. I don't have to come back home.
It better be a cold shower.
Oh, it's usually always cold. They don't like it hot there.
Is that the peak results membership?
That's why it's only $25.
What do you think here? We're only paying 25. Hot water? You crazy?
AC, no heat, no propane whatsoever.
No diss to Crunch. There is hot water. I'm just joking, but
yeah. Don't come after us.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you were health and fitness.
Yeah.
Which obviously, I prescribe to.
Right.
I know you went to Maine for some reason.
Yeah. So basically I was working there, and then I kind of just had enough of cleaning up piss and sweat out of the sauna at 11 p.m. at night and trying to kick homeless guys out of there. So I basically was like, dude, this can't be all I'm doing. So I was listening to Jocko's podcast every night, like mopping the sauna, and dude, I kind of was manifesting, like, okay, what do I want to do? So Origin and Jocko Fuel are a company that I totally subscribe to, have subscribed to. I believe in their ideologies. I love the brand. I love the guys running the brand, and I told myself, like, the only brand or company I would want to work for is Origin. So basically one day out of the blue, I was on vacation and I applied to Origin, and they got back to me and they were like, hey, we're really digging your energy. Like, could we set up a phone call? I was like, absolutely, give me a call anytime. So they ghosted me after that. They kind of didn't reply to me. And I was like, dude, I cannot miss this opportunity. Like, I love this company so much. Like, I was buying the supplements, drinking the energy drinks, the protein powders. I was wearing the clothing. When I started jiu-jitsu, I bought the gi, which they started on the ground with jiu-jitsu. So I was like, I gotta get these people's attention again. So I went up to my stand-up desk upstairs in my office, and I put my computer up, and I set up a discipline equals freedom flag, which is Jocko's motto. Jocko's an investor in Origin. He also owns Origin, but his nutritional division is Jocko Fuel. So they're separate entities now, but they were intertwined.
I always think of them that kind of one and the same, just because they have very similar outlooks and missions, I guess.
Yeah. So basically, dude, I took a video of myself talking, and I was like, "What's up, guys? Like, my name is Jackson. I'm super fired up to get to send you this video. Jackson, this is what I'm about. This is who I am, and this is why I would bring value to Origin." And then they called me back, and they were
Hell
like,
yeah,
nice, man. You just freaking threw it out there. I love that.
Yeah.
Nice. So you were there for, I want to say, a year, right?
Yeah, I was there for a year.
You met someone pretty wonderful on this journey, didn't you?
Yeah, my girlfriend Morgan. Shout out Morgan. She's the sweetest girl in the world. I love her.
Amazing. She's a very wonderful girl. Yeah. And so I don't know if there's anything you wanted to ask him about any of that.
Yeah. So just off the top of my head hearing, I just didn't want to interrupt, but so that was all in Maine.
Yeah.
So you moved to Maine, was there for a year.
Yeah.
That's where you met Morgan, you said?
So no, I met my girlfriend Morgan in Colorado while I was at the gym, actually. I met her while I was working out with my buddy Chase, who was in the Navy. He built bombs, did some cool stuff with the Navy, and then he got out, and he was total entrepreneur, started lifting weights with him. And then one day I saw this girl coming to the gym, and I was like, dude, that's what my future wife's going to look like. And he was like, yeah, if you shave down those love handles, bro. And then
gotta love your gym buddy.
One day I just asked her out, dude, and the rest was history.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's the difference in guys and girls. Girls would be like, you look great. It's like guys like, you look like shit.
You're like, wow.
Dude, if it's the right one for you, all I'll say is that she'll love you no matter what.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter what you look like, who you are. If she's meant for you, your souls will align, and that'll be good to go.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome, man.
For sure.
Good for you. So in a way, like your journey of stopping alcohol, you speaking about having an addictive personality, I can resonate with that because I think I'm similar in a lot of ways. Luckily, mine wasn't alcohol. I am that guy that it's like, okay, 1 drink, 2 drinks. It's never just been my thing, but it's like there's other things like video games or television or things like that where it's like, dude, I could just 5, 6, 7, 8, not hours can just go by, and it's like if you let that get out of hand, it's like that can really be a detriment, right?
Totally.
So
yeah.
The fact that you replace that with something I'd say is healthy, going to the weight room, doing fitness. I'm similar. I started my fitness journey and trying to do things like that for the same reasons,
Totally.
And so it's kind of amazing how you do things like that, and then all of a sudden you feel like things are falling into place. And I really love how you said it's like in your head, or you had this like kind of burning desire that came up where it's like, man, I love this company, this Origin company, and it's like I want to work for them, I want to reach out to them. Like that's the only one I can think of doing. And it's like you did the normal avenue of like, okay, send an application, they say hey, they ghost you, but it's like that could have been your chance to just kind of sit back and give up. Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, do you feel like through your journey of like you said earlier, having that humble pie, kind of giving up, becoming sobriety, giving up the alcohol, becoming sober, going to the weight room, are those things that kind of strengthen that mindset of like you've got the control to make things happen, or what? Where do you think that kind of attitude comes from for you?
For sure.
How do you cultivate that? Yeah,
that's a great question, man, and something that I pride myself on, and people call me Action Jackson. So it's like
awesome.
As a person, I do whatever I can to take action every day, to not be a victim to my circumstance and go out and make it happen. Right. So it's like some people will, just kind of go throughout life. And I was one of these people that's like, oh, why is this happening to me? Or what's going on? And I'm sure you guys can relate with real estate. Like,
100%.
Why am I not getting any deals? Like, why is this happening? And that's totally normal behavior. Like, that's what, as little kids, like, we're like, oh man, Jimmy's got this.
Because you also got the problem now, the accessibility of what you think other people have because of the freaking social media.
Yeah.
So it's like it's always in your face. The stimulation's always happening.
Totally.
So it's like back when we were younger, you'd always hear about Jimmy's dad bought this and they have this, but now it's like this mirage of what people may have. So it's like I feel like it's even worse now.
Yeah.
So it's like
the keeping up with the Joneses is just 10x in today's society. But to your point, just making that mirage, it's like just realizing that it is a mirage, at least to your circumstances. Even if it isn't, like, why does it matter? That's not, you have so much power to influence your own life and get your own things as long as you focus on it, right? Yes, because all that's going to be laser the distraction. Focused. Yeah, exactly.
I'm straight up firm believer in manifestations. Like back in the day, like my mom's super into like the zodiac signs and like saging the house for like the energy and stuff. And like when I was growing up, I was like, dude, what is this stuff? You know what I'm saying? And then like, dude, I actually believe in energies and like being able to
absolutely.
Like,
sage
to
does
manifest
not smell good.
You don't think so?
No.
It's not meant to smell good. It's meant to get the demons out of the house.
The demons don't like it either. Yeah, they don't think it smells good.
Yeah. Short-term senses, I just don't like the smell very much. But for sure. I understand the motivation behind it 100%.
Yeah.
So. I think, but to your point, it's like I'm also a firm believer in manifestation. So that's awesome. And I think this is my personal belief. But I just think with things like that, some people dismiss it as like, oh, it's silly or it's weird or you know. But it's like, to me, it's like when you really put your thought into something and you really like beam that thought and that intention just constantly and over and over and over, that's really where the kind of the magic happens, right? Where it's like, to your point, it's like, I 100% believe that your constant thinking of getting that opportunity with Jocko's company is how you got that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, you're training your brain, your subconscious to like, let me find a way to make this happen. That's and you're just drilling that until it happens, you know?
Absolutely.
So, and sometimes you don't know like when it's the right time to execute because it's like you want something so bad, right? So let's say you're saving up for a house. Let's say you have like 10 grand in your bank account and you're like, okay, I could put a down payment right now, but if I put a down payment right now, I won't have my emergency fund of 3 grand. So, but the market's down and you have a contact who's a realtor and you're like, hey, you know, I have 10 grand, like I could put a down payment on a house right now. Like, what do you think I should do? And one of you, like, whether it's you guys or you're my realtor, you're my advisor, you're like, hey man, I would wait because the market's going to drop a little bit. But you're like, dude, I need a house, right? So like, it depends on when you're going to execute that. Because if you wait too long, you could miss the window.
Sure.
I think that's also applicable to like, even just like reaching out to clients or even reaching out to like Jocko, like that team. It's like, it's like some of these like social norms about like, you don't want to be overly jumpy. Like we just got off the phone and they ghosted me. It's like, you don't want to do it too soon. It's like all this, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know about you guys, but about when it comes to like manifestations and like goals and like actually hitting them, it's not real until I say it out loud or write it down. That's how I am. You know what I mean? Like, because my brain, because it moves quickly, it'll bounce onto things. And if I don't take a time and just actually detach and see it on a piece of paper or just saying it out loud, because then you feel like you're accountable to actually act on that. So it's like, all right, I said it. Now I'm going to feel like a liar if I don't do it. That's how I am because I'm prideful and I know you are and I know you are.
Yep.
So it's like, it's kind of tricking your mind to be like, now I got to do it. Right. And that's kind of like a way to manifest, but it's also in your control. It's always on us.
Yeah.
Your success is on you. It's not on me. Your success is on you. It's not on me. Same thing goes to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to that point, it's like you set these, really, it's like, I forgot who made this quote. It's brilliant, but unfortunately I can't credit them, but it's like, a wish is still just a wish unless you put it into action. Right. So it's just like wishes become real once you attach the game plan to it and you execute. You need both of those, right? You can't just blindly, like, you can't just ready fire. It's aim, ready, fire, right? Ready, aim, fire. So it's kind of like
actionable
it's putting
steps.
Those things, right? And something, I mean, writing things down, I've noticed has been my secret weapon the past, like even just month or 2 months, where it's like, there's something to, nowadays, the digital frame is genius for, I think, saving things and making it compatible and accessible, where it's like, okay, if I type up a document or I've got these things, these PDFs, I can put it in my Google Drive or something, and it's like I can access it to my phone, my laptop, my computer, my whatever.
Yes.
The accessibility is huge, but it's like, for me to get it into here, it's this, because there's something magical about, to your point, where it's like, your brain connects. There's some type of subconscious thing that happens that it's like, okay, if I write this out and I look at it and I really absorb this, then it's like it becomes a part of you in a sense where you're just like, okay, like this has to happen now.
And that's how it's
so
studied.
underrated.
Yeah.
It's huge.
In college, I mean, even with all my NMLS, my real estate test, I would have to write, in order to get something into my brain and actually manifest and get it right in the future, is I would just, if I didn't know if it was like a really just like annoying, just wasn't sticking in your brain, that type of shit.
Yeah.
It's like it just won't stick in your brain. Just write it forever.
Yeah.
I just would write it ever. And then all I'm thinking about is like, remember I wrote that word and I wrote that question, I wrote the answer 80 times.
Yeah.
I know it.
That's not going away.
I remember that. That was on March. It was on March 2nd at around 1:30. Like it didn't like it just like makes it more timestamp in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's always good to have, we talked about in the first podcast we had, but we had our New Year's resolutions, but having goals, but also updating those goals and having more quarterly goals, because like having that overarching like big goal, having more quarterly and just keeping it posted and just keep writing it down, keep updating it, keep all that.
Totally. It's huge to be able to break it down, because like you can have the huge goal, but it's like if you just have the huge goal, that's so daunting. You're not going to know how to get
and it's a little
to
too
A to
general
Z.
Sometimes
you have to know, okay, I'm A, I want to get to Z, but let's figure out what B is, what's C, what's D, what's E, what's F, right? How do we get there step by step? And then that way it makes it so easy where it's like your brain is like, your goal is no longer Z, it's just, hey, get to B.
Right.
Okay, now get to C.
Yeah,
okay, now get to D.
Up.
Yeah,
Damn,
exactly.
Marty at G?
Yeah, right. Yeah, got to G. Oh yeah, top G.
With you guys, I'm curious with you guys, like, what is it that is your why that drives you? Because when you look at a lot of guys in our generation and you look in college, like guys who just like want to smoke weed all day, watch Netflix, play video games all day, they're really driven by like Fortnite and vape pens and stuff. Like, how is it that would you have a chip on your shoulder? Like, what is it that gets you guys
I
going?
got a few.
What are you driven by?
I got a few. Yeah, exactly.
I got a few. Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the things is I really want my base is I want to build an amazing future for my future family. That's my number one when it comes to financial. When it comes to also why, I also like the fact that are you trying to like plugging me?
Got to get it in there, man.
You got to get it in. But another one is just being a positive resource for families, friends, colleagues, and just that my why is that's like one of those, I feel like that might be a deeper internal want to be needed, but I also want that to be in a positive where I'm spreading good. And I also want to, down the road, in terms of just straight financial, is I think financial freedom for me is when you're able to donate without even having to think about it. I think that's so incredibly cool when you're able to, all right, because you always feel like crap when you're in a position where it's like, I really want to donate because I know it's a good cause, but financially, I can't.
It would hurt me. Yeah.
Right. Like, but I think that's a cool mindset to be able to have. It's just, all right, so I'll just use St. Jude, for instance. And I know someone that works here and they're like, Sam, I see you're doing pretty well. And this is what we do. And I'm just like, oh, I love that. It's going towards that. Here you go. And for me, I think, and that, because I think when it comes down to like actually having a solid amount of financial freedom and actually having a solid amount of just stockpile, I guess you could say, is you have the ability to do a lot of good. I hate to say it, but money is an instrument in order to actually have a result of change around you. Like truly.
Positive or negative. It depends on who has
exactly,
it.
Right? So it's like money is just an amplifier is what we like to say.
Yeah.
I like to think, because like, the people that they were kind of iffy growing up and now they have more money and now they're hoity-toity and they feel like they act like they're the shit all the time.
Right.
And to me, like going back to the humble pie aspect, I think it's like, if you can maintain that, if you have that base, and like, for instance, I know you're going to be successful. I know you'll never be that hoity-toity, because you also go back to you grew up and you didn't have everything.
Yeah.
And it's some people that I know they grew up around it, and they probably will never be poor. They'll always have money because their family set them up so well. But a couple of them I know, just thinking offhand, they have no work ethic.
No, dude, that
None.
cripples you, bro. That's
None.
a disease.
None. That's the thing is, I had a really nice childhood. Amazing parents, as you know. I have a great family. My dad, obviously, you met him, and the one
Great guy.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm very blessed to be able to have is that my parents were not overly giving when it came to that kind of stuff. Like my dad told me he would not hire me unless you actually go out, graduate with honors for your degree. I will not just give you this job. You need to work for this. You need to actually become your own man first and then come back to me and talk to me.
Right on.
Yeah.
Power.
Yeah, exactly. Because like my dad also knows to make it in any business, because he did, is it takes grit, and you have to know who you are as a man, and you're not really a man unless you know who you are, right? So that I went kind of on a tangent when I came
dude,
to the,
to add on to that, and I would love to hear what you were gonna say too.
Yeah,
To add on to that, business is war, bro.
it 100%
So
is.
it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but it's you or them. And that's the problem with not knowing what you're going to do, or not knowing like what action steps you need to take, because if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to get walked on. So you need to get yourself into a situation where you can figure out what you're good at, and then get yourself into that world, and then you need to go out and dominate. Not necessarily snaking people or doing things that are unethical or that don't have integrity, but you need to figure out a way to go out there and make it happen, because there's a lot of other people out there that it's an us or them mentality.
Oh yeah.
And you're going to get walked on.
Oh yeah.
So you gotta know, like you said, know who you are.
Yeah. If you don't master your craft, you can get walked on so easily and take advantage of everything. And you can, I mean, real estate, that's a big thing. If you don't
easily.
If you don't know what you're talking about, if you don't know the contingency periods or what have you, you could be screwing your client on the premise of an agent telling you, because they're manipulating you into something that is in the best interest of the seller. And like, there's a lot of possibilities of getting walked on. And really our industry, and really anything in regards to like big sales, because there's a lot of money moving around, and as we know, when there's a lot of money involved, a lot of people are willing to do some shady stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm curious to hear about your why.
Yeah. Can you give me the question one more time? It was why.
Yeah, you're good, bro. Yeah, I mean,
it was
a while
what
ago.
drives me, right?
yeah,
Why?
what drives you? Why do you do it? What is it inside you that makes you want to be in real estate entrepreneurial mindset and go get some?
It's very similar to, I think, what you guys were saying. Me personally, it's like, as men, as anyone really, you go through a journey of like being younger and being in a position where you feel undervalued, or at least me personally, it's like I've also had victim mentality a long time ago. Well, not that long ago, but sometimes I still have it. I'm still shaking it off, right? It's the journey. But for me, it's like
The why me?
Yeah, the why me, and it's like slowly shedding that off and realizing that you can do a lot of good in the world if you become stronger. And
100%.
I use that word as a positive, where it's like stronger at being a good person, stronger at being a good businessman, stronger at literally physical strength. And it's like, for me, it was this moment of slowly realizing that like I have so much more control of the path of my own life than I ever realized. Like just it's 100% in your hands. And I think when you have that realization, then you kind of just start thinking thoughts of like, well, how can I make this better? Or like, how can I do that better? Or like, wait, how can if I can make more money? Okay, so if I can make more money by helping more people, how do I help more people? How do I service more people?
Right.
How do I, I can be stronger. How do I lift that 5 more pounds on that thing?
Yeah.
How do I,
Right.
And so it's like, for me personally, that's always, again, kind of going back to the addictive personality. It's like, for me, it's this kind of never ending, well, it is going to end. We're all going to die. That's the whole point. It's like, how far can I get before my time is up? Right. How much can I create? How much good things in this world can be generated by one person, right?
You want to get to your full potential.
Exactly. Potential. Yeah.
I wanted to get back to that controlling yourself, because I feel like and relating both of your points is, I feel like once you have that ability to control yourself in that regard, whether it be physical or temptation, whether it be just stripping yourself from like, no, it's all on you, stripping yourself from that victim mentality and going to something like, okay, everything is on me. Let's figure this out.
100% accountability.
Yeah. The more you control yourself, the more you can control the situation too. And that means you can take more actionable steps outside of your own self and be stronger, dominate, stuff like that. Because if you're a strong, stoic man in the room and you're like, I got this, I know my shit, people can sense that. 100%. It's just like picking up chicks, right? Like, right? No, seriously.
That's a
like
good
if you're
analogy.
going out and you're like looking for girls, you're like, hey, you want to like go to my place after this? Like, no.
Oh, man.
You fucking weirdo.
Yeah,
No.
right.
Like,
No.
it's really, but if you go in and you're walking with your boys and you go up and grab a drink and
bro.
like,
You're just like, oh man, yeah.
it's just a vibe. I don't know what it is, but when
I think Bobby, I want to acknowledge how legit. I wish I could channel my energy like Bobby
Right?
is right
Yeah,
now.
he's the most stoic
so
man in the room
composed,
right
dude.
now.
100%.
He's
yeah.
just literally locked in, bro. I'm like looking at him like I need to channel that right now.
Shout outs to put the camera on you, man. Shout outs to our producer Robert right now. Got to give him a shout out.
the myth.
He's the man behind the camera. He's on the camera when we do these styles with the guests, which is cool.
He makes us look good.
Can I
does.
say one more thing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Attest to what we were talking about
Yeah,
though,
throw it
because I
out
want to backtrack a little bit and reiterate one of my points is like the business is war mentality. And by that, I don't mean to be a wolf. I mean to be a sheepdog. So I mean to protect people and help people. That's my thing. My thing is being able to help people, just like you guys said, and bring value to people. And if I was in real estate, I'd be the type of dude that's like, hey, man, if you guys want to go with this other dude, I'm sure he's solid. Like, he's probably a great guy. I don't even know him. Here's what I can do for you, and I want you to make the decision that's best for you.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to be like, no, fuck that guy. That guy, isn't going to, he lost this person's
Putting
deal,
down
blah, blah, blah.
someone else to lift you up is never the way to go.
Right.
No.
So it's like integrity and figuring out how to manage that, because you have to be able to protect the sheep from the wolves, but you also have to be able to kill a wolf when you need to.
It's a fine line. It's
dude,
tough.
that's the balance, bro.
Yeah,
That's the balance.
And it takes a lot, and it starts with you having that control, because you can't control that environment. Because I gotta say it's tough to be that controlled, and that's why it is.
You will be tempted.
That's
all the
why it
time.
is honorable, because it's not easy. It's very easy for a guy to be so in control and just go around and just be like being an eddy with chicks, and like, because realistically, I mean, it's difficult because you have so many things going on in your life. You go outside, you go to the gym, there's all these chicks that are wearing hardly nothing, and you're trying to be just an actionable, honorable man, that you're just focusing on what you do. You have your own shit going, and you wake up early, you go to the gym, you go to work, and then you keep that going, and say you have a podcast after, you maintain that energy, and you stay confident, and maybe you had a long day. You don't flip out at the freaking cashier that's helping you at 8 p.m. because you had a long day. It's carrying that all the time. It takes energy, but it's
Discipline.
It's one of those things where my motivation that comes behind that is like going to bed and resting my head on the pillow, knowing that I was a good man throughout that day.
Yes.
It makes me go to sleep a lot easier. If I was like,
Gave it your all.
even I maybe I had a disagreement with like a man in my processor, and I was like, I maybe didn't handle that very well. Like, we all have those times because we're still growing and learning ourselves, but then you want to make sure you learn on that when that happens. So you just keep fine tuning. You're not perfect as we go along. We just keep fine tuning. Okay, I could have done that better. I could have carried myself a little bit better. I probably shouldn't have. I maybe should have talked with him, given him a little bit more time, instead of just like, oh, I got something else to do. Like, it's constant recycling, rebuilding.
Exactly. And I think something I'm noticing with everything we're talking about, it's like, I think that's all achievable. It's necessary to have just a mindset of like abundance. I really like your point where it's like, which I actually have another question for you, being a first time home buyer and kind of going through that process. But you as a, let's call you a consumer, just as being going into the market and needing a house, needing to go through the professionals that would help you get there, right? It's like you mentioned how you can almost sense the energy of a person that has that abundance mindset of like, hey, listen, I'm here to just do my job to the best of my ability. I'm here to just serve and help you, even if it means I'm going to send you to the other gal or guy, right? Where it's like, I'm not even going to get that commission, right? Whereas, you get the opposite people, to your point, that are just, we call it commission breath, where it's just like you can smell it, right? It's like you can tell when someone's just kind of in it for their own gain and only that. Whereas instead of like, hey, let's make a win-win. This is about you. Let me serve you. Let me help you, right? And those are the people that I think, hopefully, really rise to the top over time. And those are the people that you want to be in business like that. So, but
people I gravitate towards.
Absolutely. So question on that though. So as a person that just went through really recently, going through the first time home buyer process, what would you say? What are some tips you would give to people that are kind of sitting on the fence or have thought about finally purchasing the house? Just as a person that's kind of fresh on your mind, you just went through the process. What are some things you would give them as some advice to either look out for?
I also want to mention that he's never lived here before ever. So he also, it's not like he's buying in his local neighborhood he grew up on. So this is a brand new area for him too. So even bigger leap for him.
Yeah. So jumping in, you don't even know the area. So what would you say are like, if you can give us, checklist of things, or what to look out for if you were a first time home buyer ready to take the leap or thinking about it?
Yeah. So my first piece of advice would be to make sure that you find a realtor in the area that you're looking at that you can trust, and someone that isn't going to pressure you, and someone that's going to be able to ride with you for a year if that has to be 2 years. It doesn't matter. Just find someone who you trust and you feel like you can depend on. That's step number one. Number two, I would say, and this is going to kind of backtrack a little bit to the initial point of the process, is that I think everyone that has the ability to buy a house should buy a house. I think that everyone should invest their money into real estate as quickly as they possibly can, because the sooner that you can do that, the sooner you can, start building equity. Because if you're renting, you're just throwing your money out the door. And obviously, a lot of people in certain scenarios, depending on what their circumstances are, they have to rent. Right. So my advice would be to get yourself into a position where you can buy a house as soon as possible, and then by the time you do that and you make that decision, you can find a realtor that you trust and you can depend on. When I was in Maine, I bought a house. I had a first-time home buyer's loan with an residential or a rural development loan. Have you guys heard of that RD loan?
An RD loan? It's like a USDA loan?
Yeah, so it is. So it's so you guys definitely know more about it than I do. But basically, I was making a decent salary, and then in the area, they had these loans where you can help people that were kind of like lower income or whatever. So I wasn't necessarily ready to buy a house, but I found a tool that could help me get one, and that's the FHA loan. So people, you don't have to have a ton of money for a down payment. If you talk to one of these two guys sitting right here, they can find a way for you to utilize the tools that are in your tool belt to be able to get one. So my situation was pretty unique. I got the house. It was an 1860s farmhouse. It literally was heated on oil in Maine. It got to be negative 40 degrees in the winter.
Heated on oil.
And this house, dude, like I walked into the bedrooms upstairs and like my head hit the ceiling. Because it was built in 1860, and according to all these people in Maine, they said in the 1800s people were shorter. So like I hit my head on the ceiling, and I was like, dude, and it was creepy, bro, and it was right across from a graveyard, and it was off of a highway.
Oh boy!
And like, dude, my girlfriend, like being the sweetheart that she was, she helped me paint the kitchen white. Totally brightened up the whole entire scene. So we kind of made some fixtures and improvements.
Right.
And then I wanted to get out of there in time for us to be able to sell the house, just so in case something went wrong or whatever, we weren't stuck with the house. So we flipped it. So we were able to acquire a profit off of the house and then put that into the house.
It's during a good time. When was that time? It was like 29. What was the time frame?
2021. So this is like last year.
So when did you? So you sold it in 21. You bought it in 2020?
2022. My bad. Yeah, 2022.
And you sold it around springtime, right?
I sold it in September of 2022.
Okay. Yeah. On the tail end.
But back to your initial point, find a realtor that you trust and then have them educate you and then get an FHA loan or whatever you need to do to get a property. Because in my opinion, renting, you're just throwing your money out the door. So start building equity.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said it because I always say it. We always say it, but
yeah, we always like to say like when you're financially and mentally ready to buy, that's the right time to buy.
Now, there is a couple things I will say is that if you're going to buy a house, you better be ready to deal with being a homeowner. Being a homeowner is not easy. And also make sure that that house is good to go. Like I would take a house that's like 200 square feet over like a 5-bedroom house that I'm going to have to put a ton of money into because the second that you get a house, like you're building equity, it doesn't matter. Just have a roof over your head. Get a roof over your head. When you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, late 20s, whatever, get a roof over your head, build equity. You might have to do some home improvements here and there, but don't get it yourself into a situation that's just going to be a cash cow. And you're just going to be throwing your money into the house and it's not going to have a return. Yeah. Think about the ROI and make sure the ROI is squared away.
Unfortunately, a lot of things that are happening right now is that obviously we knew in 2020 and 2021 it was crazy, right? The market was wild. People were playing a ton over, but now there's a lot of real estate lawsuits coming out right now because a lot of people that threw away their contingencies. Remember when you're going through buying your house, there was a contingency period of like 11 days for your inspection. If there's anything that were to pop up during that time that was like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. Yeah. You can back out and get earnest money deposit back. Right. People were throwing that out and under the advisement of a lot of their agents. So a lot of agents right now are getting sued because a lot of defects of the property they've been having to deal with. Just going to your point where there's some times where it's like, if you're knowing and you're trying to, it's like you love it's 2.5 acres. It's in Penryn. I know there needs work, but the area is where I want to be. That's different. But if you're just like, throwing it away and you do your due diligence, that's a big bummer.
You got to be hungry for a property, but you can't be desperate just to get under one.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
Yeah, that one was awesome. I mean, how quickly another thing too is that it was kind of like a record close too. So it was a lot.
Sam's like tooting his own horn right now.
He's like, oh, we got to talk about this.
Sam killed it. Sam, honestly, he made the process so simplified. And we closed in 11 days, which was absolutely ridiculous. And he negotiated us down. He really he gave me the brotherly care that I felt like he would. And I
got you, brother.
I will always do business with one of these cats in this room because anyone that Sam is affiliated with, I will affiliate myself with. And he killed it. So
yeah, Chris will help you on that next real estate deal for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, I'm just here.
Love to help.
I'm here for it, man.
Yeah. So I mean.
Man, I wish I had that 11-day close in my last one.
Yeah, it was also shit. Yeah, based on what I heard. Yeah, but his situation was pretty special because the agent that we were working with was awesome. She was great. She knew her stuff. And she also, what happened with their situations, they had all 3 reports already completed by a very reputable company. Shout out Home Guard. We know it's a good company. They had the roof, pest, and home inspection. It was clean across the board. It was pretty much, it's like barely under 1,000 square feet, but it is gorgeous. It's like brand new and right by downtown in Placerville. It's great. But that's one of the reasons why we're able to do 11 days. Right now, you don't have to do 11 days per se, but you can. But that's one of the reasons why
things were lined up
quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an awesome experience for him, and it's close to family and whatnot, and you're close to me, which is awesome. I never thought you'd ever come in this area.
Yeah, dude. I like Sacktown. Cool. Sacktown's awesome. You get whatever you want here.
Yeah. NorCal is a great spot. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, Southern California is not my favorite, but mainly because I like my people. I don't like that many people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's very crowded down there.
I'm not a big traffic guy, and I know that's pretty much something you have to get used to on a daily basis down there.
Yeah,
100%. But moving on to that, I mean, so you bought a house, and so obviously that was a big step when it came down to just like, I feel like when you have a house is a different like level you feel when it comes to like being a man. Kind of moving into that, I kind of wanted to slowly move into the idea of, because the one thing that we kind of connected on is that I feel like there's something going on right now where there's a lot of tension between like if it's good to be a strong masculine man or if it's kind of looked down upon sometimes where it's like, oh, you should be more sensitive or it's okay. It's that mindset of like, don't worry, it's okay. It's not your fault. It's okay. It's like, for me, I'm the exact opposite. He's getting all fired up already.
I'm trying to chill out, dude. You're getting me fired up. Trying to be like Bobby right now.
Stoke Bobby.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a
He's
thing,
looking at
right?
that knife right now, like, oh,
Dude, it gets me worked up, dude. And I shouldn't let it get me worked up.
But it's a thing, though, man. I think it's thrown in our face a lot where it's like, it's almost like they don't want you to be a strong man, but at the end of the day, you start to realize those are the ones that win. And yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's a positive.
I'll say this. I'll jump in and say,
Jump in, Chris.
I'll jump in. We'll 2 feet. We're long jumping right in. So I can understand, I think, where people come from when they hear terminology like strong, things like that, because in the past and still now, strength can be abused, just like a lot 100%, of things, right?
That goes back to the control aspect too.
It does go back to the control, but unfortunately, because things like that get abused, words like strength or, drive or power or things like this, they almost get like tinged, they get corrupted because then, the social, I guess, zeitgeist, you call it, gets just so caught up in thinking that's a synonym to being abusive. That's a synonym to being, violent, to being a criminal, to being right, which is all the things that I guess young men that are not on the right path could be associated with, right? Yeah. But so, our culture is shifting in this direction where maybe we did have a period where that got out of hand, where things got too violent, they got too aggressive, they got too whatever. And so there's this movement to kind of like, oh, okay, let's try to balance that out. But have we tipped too far? That's the problem. Yeah. And have we now made these words where we've put them in this basket where they're so bad that now young men that are growing up in this new generation are completely missing all of the good and valuable things that come with that. If you, like you said, if you control it and you channel it in a positive way, right? Because I was thinking about this earlier where it's like, it's like
I think the channeling is the most crucial.
It's 100% the most crucial. But the problem is,
you agree? If
you throw that into being a negative thing, you never give someone the opportunity to hold it and learn to channel it. You need to be able to have it first and channel it and work through. But just not having it at all, it's like, right? It's like where it's like, a good man is one who's dangerous, but doesn't know how to use it, right? Or does know how to use it, right? Is dangerous, but
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, exactly. You finish it for me. I'm about to mess it up.
No, he's essentially Jax. I know he probably knows what I'm about to say.
Voluntary control.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Be a monster, but know how to control it.
Exactly.
Have the capability, but a true man only uses it unless he absolutely has to.
Right.
And that's kind of like the idea coming behind, like. Traditionally, like when I'm talking to another guy, like another bigger guy, it's usually kind of like the mediator, the unspoken mediator. It's like, all right, there's a certain point of this argument where it will tip into physicality, but that's kind of where our line hits because we know damage can be done if we bridge that physical. That's why it's so rare. There's some people in unfortunate situations where they feel like they have to fight to overcompensate for some. I know a couple guys that are like that because they don't know how to control themselves,
right?
In order to channel it in the right ways. But I think it really comes down to control and channeling the energy. Like for me, for instance, I'm a very emotional weightlifter and activity driven when it comes to like if I'm having depressive thoughts or if I'm down or had a tough day, I take it out on the weights and I take it out on take it out on my body, but not in the sense of like breaking
it down to build it back up.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Cause you gotta channel it somehow. And then if I got remaining, it's like, which I always got a lot of, it's towards work and continue to grow. Cause that's my dopamine. I want to hear about your thoughts
Yeah.
because we had to give you a minute to cool down.
Yeah, no, it's probably for the
He had
best.
to control himself there. Had to gather.
I did, dude. I did. Well,
hear it.
this is kind of like my whole entire life's question, to be honest with you guys, because I hear what you're saying about have we tipped too far, and my mentality with it is because of weak men, we've gotten to where we're at. So like you see all of the feminists, and I don't even need to get into the politics or anything like that, but like people that hate men, and they're talking about like the future is women and women king, and you see like the women Hulk and all this stuff, and it's like this narrative that they're pushing, and like people think that masculinity is a bad thing. Like they genuinely do.
Toxic masculinity.
They're convincing these kids that it's bad to be a man. And the reason I get fired up about it is because I know deep in my heart that a good man is not only necessary, but it's crucial to our survival.
Yeah.
Because, so I train jujitsu. And for people that don't know what jujitsu is, it's basically learning to control and submit another human being on the ground.
Ground warfare,
Yeah,
essentially.
it's ground warfare. So, and dude, like, the guys that I train jujitsu with are probably, and there's even females in there, they're probably the best people you would ever meet.
And kind, genuine, good people.
But also they could do serious harm if they needed to. But they're also the type of people that it's like, when they know where they can go with it, that they're not ever going to use it unless they're like getting attacked or one of their family members are getting attacked. And that's kind of like my mentality with it, is to, like you said, that Jordan Peterson quote, it's being a warrior in a garden is far better than being a gardener in a war.
Absolutely.
And there's guys and people of all shapes and sizes that I train with, and they teach me a lot about just remaining calm, because being calm is a superpower, and breathing and making sure that, you have all of your ducks in a row, and everything that I learn at jiu-jitsu transfers over to life. And I think it's super important to realize that being a man, like you just talked about, is not a bad thing.
No.
It's not a bad thing to be strong and to be courageous.
Because it's also hard to be a good man because it takes time and building and just perseverance, and also just awareness and consistent every single day being that person.
And
like,
being
you can't
that,
just say you're a good man.
Being that dude isn't being the guy who gets all the attention in the room, or the king that sits on his totem pole and has people serving him food and naked women laying around or anything. It's actually what it is it's being quiet. It's listening. It's serving other people. It's being able to make breakfast for every person that you love, and then clean up after them, and then protect them and make them feel safe.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not those other ideologies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because people, I think a lot of the problem, like you're saying, it correlates to like abusiveness, or like if you're a strong man, it's like, okay, so does that mean you're going to take advantage of me? Or because you're a strong man, you're a big man, like, does that mean that you're like egotistical? Does that mean you're a narcissist? Like, that's the ones that take advantage of that power are not good men. They're not good, strong men. They're considered, I would say, weak men.
Absolutely. And that's the definition of strength there, I think, is so important, because it's like, I was thinking the exact same thing. It's like, when you have that power, again, warrior in the garden, right? It's like,
great power comes great responsibility.
exactly. Spider-Man. Uncle Ben.
Or man, Chris, Uncle Ben, dude.
R.I.P.
Legend.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, exactly. So strength, man. It's like, you have to really, words are so crucial in how you define them and how you let them sit in your mind and in your life. And it's like, to your point, strength, we have to, as a culture, redefine where it's like, strength is that positive thing, right? Strength is that ability to protect and provide for others. It's not to destroy and break down and to take from them, right?
Yeah, no.
So it's just, you could be someone that is quote unquote physically strong, but it's like, yeah, if you're hitting on your wife, you're weak. You're a coward,
dude,
right?
That's it.
You're an absolute coward, because it's like, a real strong person, to your point, it's like, if I was really strong, I'd want to challenge myself to where it's like, I'm strong because I go into the jiu-jitsu gym and I'm trying to tumble with the toughest guy there so I can be better. So then if I get in that situation where I have to protect myself or others, I can do that. Not because I'm, taking advantage of someone that is weaker than me, either physically or
So I
in
want to
anything.
go out there and just start intimidating people right when I start
That's a
getting this
bully.
skill.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a bully. That's weak. That's cowardice.
Yes.
Right. So it's just like there's a difference. We have to redefine the language. We have to give it back to where it's like, listen, strong doesn't mean I can hurt you, so I will. It means I can hurt those who are going to try to hurt us. Right.
Why do you think when we're little kids we see superhero movies and then we're like, you're filled with so
Yeah.
much joy and
Oh, yeah.
happiness, and you want to go buy a costume or like a poster for your wall?
Oh man.
Because you believe in that. It's like on a biological level, everything that those people stand for is what it means to be good.
Yes.
And to
Yeah.
be good, it's not to be able to lift 315 pounds in the gym. It's to be able to go and show up for people. And when someone calls on you, whether it's your grandmother or your sister or that random person out in the street that's got a cut on their wrist and they need you to take them to the ER, are you going to be an asset or a liability in that situation?
Right.
For me personally, I bet you guys feel the same way. When you feel like you're an asset and you truly help that person, it makes you feel good too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't, then it's like you're not really genuine. You need to work on some things.
You're doing it
yourself.
because
Yeah.
it's the right thing to do.
Right. Because, like, for me, it's like when I'm truly helping someone out of the goodness of my heart, voluntary, I'm not getting paid for anything. And they're like, Sam, I just really appreciate all that you did for me. That makes me feel good because I was there. They felt so comfortable and they confided in me to go to and rely on. And that to me means a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and that drives me further because I like using all the powers I have to my advantage, but for the advantage of other people.
Absolutely.
With the intent to help other people.
I think it fills your cup when you become a person that your cup gets filled by filling other people's cup. It's like that's where the abundance
Yes.
is created. That's where the good things happen. Where it's like
I
that's
love
the
it.
magic. Where all of a sudden 1 + 1 = 3 instead of you trying to subtract from people. Right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
two people come together and they
it's
create
a really,
value.
really good point. What
Yeah.
you just said
Yeah.
means a lot.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we're about an hour into this. Is there any final thoughts you want to let people know on the podcast as our special guest? Because you've been through the ringer, my guy.
Yeah, I would
You've
say
been through
just
the ringer.
I would say just go out there and give every day your best shot. Show up for the people that you love and that love you, and do your best every day to make the world better than it was when you came into this world. That's pretty much all I got.
Beautiful.
I couldn't end it better than that.
No.
Awesome, guys. Well, that was episode 7, Market Matters Podcast. Jax, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, until then, I'll see you guys then. We'll
Absolutely.
see you on the next one.
See you later, guys.